In the summer when I was 10, Viscount Chandler's heir came to Whitehall. The adults introduced us to each other, telling us to say hello. A blonde-haired boy with a dazzling smile introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Renee Heiselin." Renee asked curiously, "What's your name?" looking at the shy interlocutor. A dark-haired boy with piercing blue eyes answered, "Alexander Shambler." Being of the same age, we quickly became close, although at first Alexander shouted, "Leave me alone." Every summer, Alexander would come from far away, from Calabar, and visit for the rest of the vacation. After spending a few summer vacations together, Renee even introduced Sasha to his pig Gabe, and the latter stole his ice cream. One night we sat by the water, admiring the moon's path on the dark surface. Renee noticed that it was getting chilly, and Alexander carefully threw his jacket over him. Renee looked at Sasha, feeling something more than friendship budding. Alexander, the boy with blue eyes, became his first love. But the summer they turned 16, their connection was cut off. Renee learned from the newspapers of the death of Blair Shambler, Alexander's mother. He sent Sasha several letters with words of comfort. There was no response, and that winter there was a fire with casualties at the Shambler mansion. Upon hearing of this, Renee immediately traveled to Calabar to see Alexander. A stern-looking man met him at the estate gate, blocking the way. Renee asked anxiously, "Is Sasha okay? Did my letters get through?" The man replied that young Mr. Alexander was safe, but did not wish to see him now. The man added, "and asked me to give you this reply." Renee unfolds the message from Sasha with bated breath. Renee's eyes widen with shock running down the lines. "Don't ever look for me again. Get out. I'm sick of you." So with a broken heart, his first love ended. 8 years later, the Heiselin estate shines in the sunshine. The adult Renee, head of the barony, rushes the children to school. A childish argument erupts at the table. Morris started it first. The boy shouts defiantly, "What, you want to die?" Renee sighs. The children run away with a stomp. One threatens, "If I catch you, you're dead." The woman shouts sternly, "Vienna, Morris, no running while eating." There's a commotion at the table, a woman trying to feed a horde of children. She sighs, seeing Morris rush past, nearly dropping her plate. A woman announces, "Whoever doesn't finish in 10 minutes and is late will lose his apple pie." The children freeze in horror when they hear about the pie. Cries of despair, "No, my apple pie, and I'm almost done, honestly." The children, having finished, run out of the dining room in droves, shouting, "Thank you for—" The woman smiles tiredly. Every morning is like a battlefield. A hand places an empty, slightly stained plate on the table. The inscription reads, "It has been 3 years since Baron Heiselin's estate became an orphanage." After his grandfather died in the war, Renee inherited his position and sheltered the orphans of Whitehall. My uncle, who came from the monastery to help, used to say, "Life is cyclical, Renee, even though it's not easy now." "You can't abandon innocent children who have lost their families in the blink of an eye," Renee recalled his uncle saying. Knowing their fates, Renee could not turn his back on the destitute. Renee himself lost his parents early and understood their pain like no one else. But the consequences of this decision have been crushing for the finances. Mountains of unpaid bills grew every day, threatening the estate. The dozens of receipts, the ever-increasing debts were a heavy burden on Renee. And the source of this endless debt, as it turned out, was, "I'm sorry, Ren." The uncle who was responsible for his financial woes was lamenting. The uncle excuses himself. "I was promised a 40% discount, I just—" Renee pounded his fist on the table in fury. "Uncle," he yells, "that Bill Chander's always going on about the discount and we haven't paid for our desks yet." Uncle kneels down while Renee questions, "And what else the zoo?" Renee is desperate. "The unpaid bills exceed the value of the estate. What are you going to do?" Uncle babbles an apology. "I have nothing to say, Renee. I didn't think it would come out like this." Renee thinks bitterly. Yes, my uncle is definitely a good man. Uncle vows to find money, to sell everything, not understanding how the world works. Renee looks at him, feeling this naivete suffocating him. He recalls, "Just 2 months ago, we barely scraped together money by selling some land." Renee thinks gloomily, "At this rate, we'll soon be on the streets, not much more than a shelter to maintain." He turns to his uncle, who flinches at the sight of him. Renee points to the table with the receipts. "Deal with this, and I'll forgive you." Uncle enthusiastically assures, "Leave it to me, my dear Renee." Seagulls soar in the serene blue sky above Whitehall. Renee's eyes are determined, but a shadow of weariness slips into them. Renee sits alone on the shore looking at the waves and ponders. When did it all start? The wind flutters his blonde hair as he stares off into the distance, at the sea horizon. He admits to himself, "When I'm having a hard time, I always come to the ocean." Amidst all the changes, only the Whitehall Sea remains unchanged. Renee thinks, "Sitting here, it's like I'm coming back." In the days of carefree youth, a memory flashes back young Renee and Sasha on the beach. Their confused looks meet, their hearts flutter. Sasha's eyes reflect only Renee. And Renee smiled serenely then. "Pull yourself together, Renee Heiselin," he urges himself. "This is no time to be reminiscing about your first love. After all, there's not a dime for the shelter's expenses next month." What am I going to do? Despair grips Renee. In his eyes are heavy reflections on the future. Renee turns around at the sudden sound, and there's a stranger. The man greets with a smile. "Hello, Renee." She recognizes him. "It's been a while," he continues, his gaze full of confidence. The stranger mentions, "I have heard rumors of the deplorable state of the barony of Heiselin." His piercing eyes sparkle as he says, "And I was thinking, a sudden offer? Will you marry me? You won't regret it." Renee is in complete shock, only able to mumble, "What?" Turns out it's the head of the Marquisate of Chambler, the most powerful man in Caliba. But he wasn't always like this. His path was not always easy. He inherited the title at 17 and then spent 3 years on the battlefields. He is said to have heard rumors of an island with shimmering stones. As soon as the war was over, Alexander set out to find this island. And thanks to the diamonds found there in abundance, he became an internationally recognized tycoon. With a huge fortune, he entered the automobile industry, creating the best car, the Generous. Renee recalls the Marquise of Chambler gallantly offering her hand. He is now a man valued by the Queen herself. And the fact that such a great man had suddenly found me was absurd when he suddenly proposed marriage, Renee thinks. Renee sits at the table. "Of course I accepted the offer for a certain price. Will you marry me?" His words echoed in her mind, for it had been 2 years of their sham marriage. Renee recalls, it was an arranged marriage to avoid the Queen's matchmaking. And to prove the fictitious union, their relationship was cool. The wedding portrait hid the fact that their relationship was not particularly good. Because of his frequent and long business trips, they hardly saw each other at home. Renee wonders why he chose her, but decides it doesn't matter anymore. She stands in front of the door, knowing it will soon be over. This tedious 2-year contract marriage is about to come to an end. All that's left is a divorce agreement. In a bright room, an elderly woman is reading a book while sitting up in bed. Renee enters the room. "Grandma, it's me, Renee." Alexander's grandmother, Josie Chambler, smiles warmly. "Oh, Renee, dear, come in, have a seat." Renee stands at Josie's bedside, who asks, "How's your leg? I heard you hurt yourself in the study yesterday." Josie reassures with a smile. "Don't worry, a couple days rest and you'll be fine." Grandma notices the dust on Renee's face. "By the way, Renee, why is your face covered in dust? Did you roll around on the floor?" Renee replies embarrassed. "No, it's just, I was looking for it in the study." Renee holds out the photo. "This is what you were looking for yesterday, right? Your family photo?" Josie's eyes fill with tears at the sight of the snapshot. "Yes, I was so hoping to find him." "I'm so happy. Thank you, Renee," Josie whispers. Josie looks fondly at the picture. "Really, thank you." Renee watches the distraught Josie with a warm smile. Renee wonders, what was your husband like? And portraits are seen on the mantel. Josie remembers her husband, a great naval officer with a kind and wise soul. She smiles warmly. Looking at Alexander, it's as if I'm seeing young Gunther again. Renee listens and Josie sighs. He would be so proud of his grandson. Renee's gaze drifted off into the distance, a long-ago memory surfacing. Renee recalls, when Alexander and I were 12, Grandpa Gunther, a close friend of my grandfather's, was killed in a carriage accident. Alexander, who was especially attached to him, took that tragedy very hard. Josie's voice pulls Renee out of her musings. "Renee!" Grandma looks at her appreciatively, her hand reaching for Renee's. Josie shares, "You can't imagine what a relief it is to know you're there for him. I'm always grateful to you." A thought flashes in Renee's eyes. A decision is born. Since that's the case, Renee opens the box. "I'd like to give you a gift." Josie is surprised. "A necklace? It's our family heirloom." Grandma explains, "It grants one wish, and mine has already come true." Josie looks fondly at Renee. I think it's time I handed it over to you. Renee announces with a smile. We're getting a divorce. Josie is shocked. Grandma is alarmed. Suddenly, did Alexander do something? Renee denies it. Renee explains, it's just that we're different. I'm not right for Calaba and I'm going home. She continues, that's why I can't accept such a valuable thing. Josie insists, that only convinces me more strongly to give it to you. Grandmother smiles warmly. The world is not always kind. It can be comforting. Josie continues, I'm very curious. And what wish you will make with this necklace? Renee lounges pensively in the tub, sunlight flooding the room. She holds in her hand a sparkling necklace with a red stone. As if the necklace was imprinted in her mind, Renee's eyes filled with determination. What should I ask for? Health? Prosperity for my family? Success in business? She pondered. Her gaze deepens. Or maybe a memory comes to mind. A young Alexander holding out a gift to her with a smile. He places a wreath of white flowers on her head. Renee looks on in surprise. They're standing in a field and he says, necklace, though he gives a wreath. A strange memory. Young Alexander calls Renee Sasha, surprised by the wreath. She reminds him of his desire. He puts a wreath of flowers on her. There are no jewelers here, so for now. And with a gentle smile, he promises, but later I'll give you the real thing. Renee's eyes went wide with surprise, a blush appearing on her cheeks. Alexander looks at her with a warm, reassuring smile. The memory fades. Renee is back in the bathroom, flooded with sunlight. She clutches the necklace, whispering, sweet. May Sasha be happy. Chibi Renee concentrates on repeating her wish for his happiness. Suddenly she grins. What kind of nonsense is that? Worrying about the most successful man in the world? Renee looks determinedly at the stone. The necklace, cancel it. My wish is to become rich like him. Suddenly, a furry guest bursts into Renee's bathroom. This is Rain the cat with her kittens, Sunny and Lucky, demanding attention. A loud meow spreads across the room, the cats clearly wanting something. Renee from the tub soothes the pets. Babies, are you crying, hungry? She wipes herself off in a hurry, going to take care of the cat family. In her robe, Renee is already on her feet and the cats follow her faithfully. Taking a seat, she chooses a treat. Fish or chicken today? A sudden voice behind her makes her freeze. Hello, my wife. Renee turns around sharply, consternation and surprise on her face. Tension builds. 48 days left on the contract. Renee is on the floor with the kittens and Alexander is looking at their wedding portrait. He grins, holding up his glass. It's been a while, my husband is back. Renee in her robe stands up, Alexander standing almost with his back to her. She asks in surprise, why are you here? He replies, I came home. Is something wrong? Renee remarks, usually you go straight to the office. Today I changed my mind. Alexander moves closer, his hand reaching for hers. But Renee... He touches her collarbone. What's that scar you have here? Renee's eyes go wide at the unexpected question. She stammered, covering the site of the scar. Renee quickly comes up with an idea. The cat accidentally scratched it. Alexander asks if she's treated the scratch. Renee waves it off. It's nothing. It doesn't need medicine. He insists softly, we must. His gaze is piercing. Renee is surprised by his concern. He explains, your skin is delicate, even the smallest thing is noticeable. She is perplexed. What's wrong with him? Why is he acting like this? Usually, his cold, Renee Chambler, his hand clutched the glass in her memory. And his words, even if we are a fictitious couple, don't dishonor the name Chambler. Renee recalls her shock. A scratch dishonors the dignity of Chambler? He then reprimanded, people will say the Chamblers are heartless since the wife is injured. And adding, just as I lose nothing from this transaction, so you must not cause me any loss. Renee mentally concludes, normally he'd be talking nonsense like this, and he's smiling warmly now. Renee looks at him in disbelief, her golden eyes full of questions. Are you drunk? She asks. Of course not, he replies. Then why are you being so weird? Renee demands, Alexander Chambler, behave yourself. Her thoughts are full of confusion. He wonders, and what am I ordinary in your eyes? Renee is barefoot. He's wearing boots. Alexander stands imposingly, and she remembers someone who gets on my nerves. His piercing blue gaze wouldn't let her go. A slight chuckle touches his lips, foreshadowing something unexpected. Suddenly, he grabs her shoulder, pulling her to him. Renee's eyes go wide with amazement, a mute question frozen on her face. Alexander lifts her easily into his arms. Renee looks at him stunned. Renee yells, "What are you doing?" And he replies, "You said I was getting on your nerves. I'm just trying to live up to expectations." Alexander warns with a chuckle, "Renee, if you twitch like that, won't your robe slip off?" She's in his arms, embarrassed and angry as she covers up her robe. Renee demands, "Stop and put me down immediately, and don't ever do that again." Alexander looks at her with a sly, smug smirk. "Why?" he asks. Renee, "Because it's childish and not funny at all." Him, "Really?" His hand gripping hers tightly, he promises with a smile, "I'll think about it then." Renee's face contorts in shock as he abruptly changes her position. Alexander easily sits her down on a tall cabinet, looking up from below. Renee is furious. "Are you crazy? Why did you put me in here?" He teases, "Do you want to come down?" Alexander spreads his hands with a smug smile. "So, do you like it?" Renee demands, "Let someone else take me down, not you." He, "You mean your husband's no good, but someone else is?" She parries, "Anyone is better than you, at least bring a chair." Him, "Just like that? No charge?" Her bare feet dangling in the air, Renee surrenders. "What do you want?" Alexander smiled softly among the flowers. "I've missed you, darling." Renee, looking down at him, demands, "Say it." She is puzzled. "Did you hit your head on a business trip?" Him, "I'm just playing a role that pisses you off. You don't like it anymore?" Renee is outraged. "Stop it. How can you even say that?" And adds, "If you can't say it yourself, why make others say it?" Renee is confused to hear him say softly, "Honey, what's going on?" He looks down at her as he continues, "I missed you so much. My love Renee cries out in horror, "Stop it! Don't say another word!" Her hand with the ring freezes in front of Alexander's face, who stares at her. Disbelief splashes in her eyes. She looks at him through her fingers. Renee recalls, "During the 2 years of marriage, we were completely indifferent to each other." A picture comes to mind. In public, we portrayed a loving couple. But the rest of the time, we avoided each other. Our meetings were full of quarrels, as if we hated each other. Her thoughts continued. And now the man who disappeared for 3 months for a divorce comes back and looks at me like that? Alexander smiles enigmatically. Renee pondered, he definitely ate something wrong, or he's up to something. She decides, whatever's going on in his head, I'm not going to let myself be dragged into it anymore. Renee looks down from the closet. Even if I jump from here, she leaps up determinedly. Then I'll probably just bruise my knees. His eyes widen with surprise, her gaze full of determination in the fall. Renee flies right at Alexander, catching him off guard. They're both on the floor. He catches her, cushioning her fall. Renee, disheveled, finds herself on top, muttering, "Oh." Alexander asks worriedly, "Renee, are you okay?" She begins, "Yes, I'm fine." Suddenly, her golden eye focuses, realizing the situation. Their faces dangerously close, Renee exhales, "Ah," lips almost touching, tension rising at this unexpected moment. Renee, still on top, rests her hands on his chest, both of them on the floor. Her golden eyes wide open, she stares at him absent-mindedly. Alexander looks down at her, his blue eyes calm but attentive. Renee cries out, covering her mouth with her hands, realizing their proximity. She mutters, hiding her face, "Alexander, it was a mistake! No, an accident!" Renee continues to make excuses. "And our lips didn't make contact, did they? We just almost bumped into each other." She furtively looks at him through her fingers, saying, "So..." Renee tries to convince himself and him. "That was nothing at all." He smiles slightly. She sits on his lap, they look at each other in the light. Alexander begins, "Renee, She interrupts him with a quiet, "Ah." Renee quickly walks away, dropping it. "Anyway, sorry." She adds as she walks, "See you later then," leaving him on the floor. Alexander stares at her in silence, his lips tight. A slight enigmatic smile appears on his face. A butler in gloves opens the car door. "Sir, your car is ready." Alexander approaches a retro car waiting at the gate. He looks away thoughtfully, his gaze serious. The butler notices his condition. Is something wrong? Alexander raises his gaze to the window of the house, as if looking for something. He turns away from the window and replies briefly, No." Renee watches Alexander's departing car out the window. She peeks out from behind the curtain, her golden eyes full of determination. A sudden memory, their faces so close, their breaths mingling. Their lips almost touch, a spark running between them. His hand with the ring on her shoulder, the moment frozen in time. Renee looks down at him, confusion in her eyes. Alexander looked up from below, his blue eyes studying her reaction. A slight blush touches her cheeks, her eyes staring off to the side. Renee covers her face with her hands, muttering, "I'm seriously losing my mind." Turning around at the call of Milady, she tries to come to her senses. Maid Rosa asks sympathetically, "My lady, are you hurt? I'll treat it." In the living room, Rosa gently applies ointment to the scratch of Renee sitting on the couch. Renee, touching his neck, inquires, "Did Alexander leave for the office?" Rose confirms, yes, he'll be gone for a few days, preparing for the car show. We are shown Alexander's new project, the affordable Generos W car after the success of the luxury version. This project attracted huge investments and led to the organization of the company's first car showroom. Because of this, Alexander has been so busy for the past 6 months that he and Renee have hardly seen each other. Renee thinks with frustration, why did the contract have to end now? I mean, we haven't even discussed divorce. "It is done, my lady. Master was very concerned about you," Rosa informs. Renee is surprised. "Alexander?" Rose smiles warmly. "Yes, he specifically asked me to make sure you were properly taken care of." Rose says with a smile, "I think the master really does love you, my lady." Renee chuckles inwardly. What a terrific actor, he's up for an award. Her thought on Alexander. After the divorce, I won't have to watch this tawdry game. Renee looks into the void. Thank goodness, it really is better for everyone. Suddenly, a figure appears in the doorway. Renee turns around sharply. An elegant lady enters the room. Renee and Rosa look at her in surprise. The entranced woman thinks with satisfaction. Another advantage of this divorce. The guest comes closer, starting a conversation. I heard your brother came by earlier. She stares piercingly, asking, Is it true? And her thought is, at last I'll be rid of that wretched Nina Chumbley. Nina stands in the center of the living room, Renee and Rosa watching silently from the couch. Nina demands an answer, Renee parries, and apologizes for the intrusion. The guest waves it off. You weren't sleeping anyway, what's the problem? Renee frowns. Nina is sarcastic about Renee's country roots, the maid Rose is alarmed. Renee coldly reminds him. Actually, it was Alexander who proposed to me. Renee looks at Nina defiantly. And speaking of origins, are you the one to judge me? Nina is furious, her green eyes flashing. What did you just say? Renee's golden eye flashes resolutely, heralding a storm. A plaque appears, Nina Chambly, Alexander's half-sister. Flashback. The Marquis of Chumbley died, and the Marquis soon married a commoner seamstress. The daughter of this seamstress who entered the family was young Nina. Flashback. When she was 16, Nina was injured in a fire caused by Alexander. Alexander took responsibility, but Nina held a grudge and became obsessed with him. Renee ponders. Perhaps Nina couldn't come to terms with her brother's new family. Renee put up with her antics for almost 2 years, but there's a limit to everything. Her patience broke. I've had enough. Renee coldly replies to Nina. Your brother stopped by and went straight to the office. Renee suggests that Nina throw a tantrum at the Chandler Company if she feels like it. She adds with a chuckle that Alexander is unlikely to listen to her. Nina, fists clenched, snarls, You're just a bed warmer who thinks you are! Nina turns and walks away. Renee stares at her calmly. Renee sees Nina off with a look, her face expressing weariness but also hardness. Rose asks anxiously, My lady, are you all right? Renee smiles softly. I'm fine, don't worry, Rose, you should rest too. Night envelops Chandler Mansion, the moon illuminating its roof. In another room, Gabriel the manager lights a lamp, telling the housekeeper, Andrea, I think we need to move Ms. Nina to the 3rd floor tomorrow. Andrea replies, walking down the hallway. While I was taking care of business, the young lady made a scene with my lady again. Normally, she would ask to be left alone, but it's time to intervene. Andrea's housekeeper with a lamp in her hand continues, Plus, I hear she's suddenly developed an allergy to cats and is demanding that my lady get rid of her pets. Manager Gabriel documents surprised, Allergic to cats? She's never had a problem and all of a sudden she has one? Andrea confirms, Exactly. Doesn't that seem suspicious? I think we should consult a specialist. Gabriel shushes her. Gabriel quietly suggests something to Andrea, perhaps discussing a monetary reward. Gabrielle, lowering her voice, asks Andrea, "Just a little help?" Think. A sudden question from the darkness, "Who's there?" causes them to freeze. Turning around, they see a figure asking, "What are you doing here at this hour?" Gabriel and Andrea are stunned, their secret nighttime conversation interrupted.